The Egyptians invented it, the Germans perfected it, and today Americans are hopping on the bandwagon. It's time for all of us to learn about beer. At Custom BrewCrafters in Honeoye Falls, custom microbrews have been on the menu for 10 years. In that time, microbreweries have sprouted up all over the country, responding to a demand for an alternative to wine at the dinner table.
Good beers on to walking into bars nowadays, most accounts and seeing 1 or 2 light beers on. So it's just the same way wine worked in the 70s and 80s, with people not thinking of wine so much as jug and box wine, but now thinking it, or in the 90s thinking of it more as little boutique wineries and import wines. The same thing's happening with beer. People are just getting more educated. They're starting to appreciate the taste, the different choices that they have, and learning to recognize different styles.
There are just 4 ingredients that go into your beer: water, yeast, hops, and malt.
We receive our malt into the malt house, keep it in our grain storage area, run the bags through our mill. It comes in whole. We crack it through a grain mill into food grade buckets. The buckets are then hand mashed into our mash tun. Water's added at the same time. The mash is mixed up. It turns into like the consistency of oatmeal. We allow that to rest at a certain temperature until the starch in the malt is converted into sugar. That sugar is then extracted from the grain by rinsing. We rinse it, send the mixture over into the kettle. The kettle is brought up to a boil. We add hops at the beginning for bitterness, and then towards the end for aroma and flavor. Then we run it through our heat exchanger. The heat exchanger uses 2 refrigerants, actually just cold water and propylene glycol, to chill the mixture down so that we can send it into the tanks and add the yeast without killing it. The yeast is harvested from one of the fermenters that's just finished fermenting, added right through the front manway of the fermenter with the beer, or with the mixture as it's going in. That's allowed to rest for 3 to 5 days to complete its fermentation. After that, we cool the tanks down using glycol jackets. The tanks are all refrigerated so we can maintain a constant fermentation temperature. We stay with a specific temperature for a certain amount of time. We drop the tanks to about 38 degrees for anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks, depending on how long they need to age. Some beers go a little longer than that. Once that time's up, then we run it through our filter. The filter just uses a fine filter medium to take out most of any of the haze in the beer. The beer is then sent into one of our waiting bright beer tanks, where we add carbonation through a stone in the bottom. The mixture is carbonated. The beer at that point is carbonated overnight. We run it into kegs after that through a manifold, rinse the kegs off, label them, and wheel them into one of our coolers.
How much of the whole process here are you scrubbing equipment and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a lot. We have a lot of apprentices that come through that do it in conjunction with a lot of the online brewing programs, and it's the first thing they get to do when they start is they get to clean the outside of the tanks, get to clean kegs, get to learn that stuff, because especially with a brewery like us that doesn't pasteurize, you really have to be careful of your cleanliness. If everything isn't completely clean, it's going to show when your product goes bad, sitting in a bar for 2 weeks. So you got to make sure that before the product goes into the kegs, that everything you do is completely sanitary and as clean as you can possibly get it.
500 kegs per month are produced at Custom BrewCrafters. That's 6,000 kegs per year. And Jason Fox says they're growing. Lucky for him, so are Americans' thirst. For MPNNow.com, I'm Bryan Mahoney.
One bourbon, one scotch, one beer. Well, I ain't seen my baby since I don't know when. I've been drinking bourbon whiskey, scotch and gin. Gonna get high, man, I'm gonna